Today's proverb, I am disgusted. Y'all better talk to her before I do, because I'm going to hurt her feelings. That's fucked up. And this is Gayside Stories with Trillificent, all LGBTQA all the time. GaysideStories.com is the hub for more information. Follow and interact on social media. Like the Facebook page. Email me at GaysideStories@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Do me a favor and take a few minutes to rate on iTunes. Leave comments on SoundCloud if you prefer. And make sure that you are sharing this podcast with others. That is how we get the word out and we make this a bigger thing than it already is. This week, I am joined by two very special guests. A lot of you, I think, know who they are. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Oh, I'll go first. Hey everybody, this is Candice, better known as Intense Desire on Twitter, and one half of the Ratchet Ramblings Podcast crew.
And I am Jeremy. Many of you may know me as Black Dante on Twitter. And I am the other half of the Ratchet Ramblings Podcast and also one half of the Crown and Collars Podcast. And it is a pleasure to be here with my man Curtis, who's doing great things with this podcast.
No, I appreciate you guys for coming. CSPN in the building. Real quick, why don't you guys tell the listeners a little bit about Ratchet Ramblings and Jeremy a little bit about Crown and Collards?
Sure. So Ratchet Ramblings is fully dedicated to anything Ratchet TV, especially coming from Mona Scott, the great and the terrible at the same time. We every week we get together and we discuss all the disgustingly amazing stuff that we see on All the Love and Hip Hops, Basketball Wives,
Black Ink Chicago,
and Nasty Black Ink New York when they come back unmoisturized. So yeah, so check in, listen, laugh, comment, just give us your thoughts, all of that.
Yep, and new episodes every Monday. And if you like us, if you're discussing the show, use the hashtag Ratchet Ramblings Pod and follow the Twitter at Ratchet Ramblings.
And that's what's up.
And for Crown and Collards, Ratchet Ramblings was actually a spinoff of Crown and Collards, because we used to do Ratchet recaps on there, and we have to shout out one of our friends at a Quality Mess for actually giving the suggestion, and for and thank you to Mel and Classic for greenlighting it. But Crown and Collards, many of you that is listening probably have heard Curtis. We had Curtis on one episode. That is basically me and my homeboy Dan. We have been best described as like listening to a catfish dinner. And we have been at this thing. We have been at this thing. It'll actually be 3 years in September, and it's just all country asses just talking about life, politics, pop culture, trying to make stuff funny, but also be aware. Like one of the mottos of our show is "Be aware but laugh." Just try to be here for the people, give them some laughs, give them some insight, give them some information, and trying to make the world one podcast episode at a time.
That's what's up. So again, thank you guys for joining me. Let's get into a few of these segments. So first off is the school and life. As you guys may know, this is where I like to highlight one or two things really quick that helped me get through the past week. So my school and life for this week is actually the Houston Restaurant Weeks. One of my favorite times of the year. Fuck Christmas and all of that kind of shit. I mean, I eat then too, but Houston Restaurant Weeks is another one of my favorite times because fat. I'm just fat and I like to eat. So I kicked it off this year going to a restaurant called Lucille's with one of my friends that's been on the show, John Redcorn. Shout out to him. It was a real black establishment. It was all of your aunties in there with all the different auntie haircuts and wigs. and then like all the nephews were there too, and it's like where all these Omega looking ass niggas and Sigma looking ass niggas come from. The food was pretty good, and one thing that I really like about the Houston Restaurant Weeks is that you get to eat good food depending on where you go, because not everywhere is good. But you get to eat good food, and it's for a good cause. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to visiting a few other places with friends this month before it ends, and getting my grub on. So what about you guys? You have something you want to highlight?
Knowing that I'm going on vacation this week has been helping me get through the last few weeks. Honestly, I
That's
am
real.
sick of white people, and
That is also real.
they act like relaxation is going out of style at my job right now. So all last week, all I kept saying to myself is, one more week, one more week, one more week. So yeah, shout out to black people getting to rest and take vacations and do shit that we like to do that does not involve white people messing up the groove of it.
Amen to that.
For me, I have to shout out Black Podcasts. They get me through a lot. I love hearing different people's voices, different people's perspectives, and I listen to a lot of black comedy podcasts. And shout out to us for just being there for each other, even when we don't know that we being there for each other. Podcasts help me get through the workday because I also work with mostly white people and they get on my goddamn nerves. So
Yes.
I just put on my headphones and just tune them out. And yeah,
Ooh,
shout out to Black Podcasting is my school in life for helping me get my life and get me through the workday to the weekend.
ooh, before we go into it, if you guys have never had the pleasure of meeting Curtis in person, you kind of missing out. So,
Hey.
Curtis was in Cleveland a couple years back. I want to say it was like 2015. It was,
Yeah.
and he is as funny in person, probably more than what you get on the podcast. It's kind of crazy because you get a hilarious Curtis on these podcasts and on social media, but he is just as funny, but also a really sweet person. And we turned him on to some food called a Polish boy from Cleveland. So if you never got a chance to meet Curtis, I mean, you should envy me, but if you get a chance, don't pass up on it.
Oh, I feel all warm inside. If I was white, I would turn pink. But no, same. Shout out to you. Like that was a dope night, and that was a messy good time with the Polish boy. And same with you. Like if y'all haven't met Candice in person, she's cuddly and her smile is bright. And she ain't shit. Like as much as she ain't shit on Twitter is magnified probably at least 3 times in person.
Yeah.
And she'll let you know. You know what? I distinctly remember you be like, I don't even be saying all the shit that go through my head on Twitter, and I was like, you know what? You right. So shout out to that. Moving right along to the come quick segment. I just got one quick thing. Sometimes I have things on my heart and I talk about them on this segment, but a lot of times I'm like, I'll just leave it to the other podcasts. But in this instance, I think this Twitter poll that I did is fitting, especially for you guys having started Ratchet Ramblings. So the question that I asked on Twitter was, if you could, would you get ass shots? And the answers were yes or no. So 37% said yes, and 63% said no. So actually, shout out to both. Shout out for people, walking in their truths, walking in their lack of booty and ambition for booty. I only have one thought, and then I'll let you guys chime in. Remember, friends, when it comes to ass shots or whatever you have going on back there, jock straps and reality TV makes your fake butt look even faker. Just take that into account. And that's all I have on that.
Some of that 63% lying.
I mean, that goes without saying. I wasn't going to call them to the mat. But,
Hey, listen, only when I speak of stuff, I only speak in terms of black people because I don't care what white people think. So, it, having a nice ass is a thing amongst our people.
Oh, it
Like
is.
Yes.
a nice
That's
ass,
coveted.
can get you far. So, um, if I had the money to throw away, I'm not gonna lie, I would make over my whole life. They would just probably have to put my head on a new body because
Hello. I'm like, I would just knock on somebody's door and be like, I need real life Photoshop. I
yeah,
need this face on a brand new body.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
I
I
need
would
top notch. Like I need it to be a situation
top
where like
notch.
I'm
I,
not on a budget because I don't need to be leaking. I don't need to
That's
be
what I
on
was just about
TV
to say.
talking
I don't
about
need to
Yeah.
be on TV with my ass leaking, quote unquote, fat. But if I had, like you said, if I had the money to get the best there is out there, man, please, I would overhaul this whole body.
you wouldn't be able to tell me shit.
Shit.
But I don't like I said, I don't want the church's chicken of ass shots. I do not want to be leaking plasma and shit on nobody's
Yeah,
couch or my own.
exactly. Exactly. I don't want no tire fix a flat in my ass or nothing like that. But if I could afford good plastic surgery, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Yep, everything but the face, cause
Yeah, I like my face.
that shit that y'all be going through, and they have no rhinoplasty and all that. I'm good on
No.
that.
Mm-mm.
Just like I said, just take this face and put it on a new face off. I ain't lying to you. I ain't lying to you. We all walking our truth. So, sorry, Jeremy, you had something to say?
No, I was just gonna say, like we said on Ratchet Ramblings, we are pro plastic surgery. We are anti leakage on somebody's couch.
Yes, anti botched.
Yeah.
And sex of life. I thought that these things that they were outlining could apply to any situation, whether it's you being an ally to feminists or to women, you're being an ally to the LGBT community, to black people or other marginalized groups. So I thought we could get into that and have a nice discussion about what it means to be an ally and some tips that you should try to adhere to. So first I'm going to say, why don't you guys give your personal definitions of what it means to be an ally to a marginalized group?
Candice, why don't you start us off?
So, for me, the one of the biggest keys to it is to be genuine and being an ally. A lot of people do it for hand claps and back pats, and when they don't get that, their real true colors come out, and it kind of diminishes what it means to be an ally for people who do it from a genuine place because they care about marginalized groups that they don't necessarily fit in, but they understand the struggle. Nobody needs you to be an ally so that you can benefit from it. That is completely against what it means to be an ally to a marginalized group. It's not for your benefit. It's for the group that needs the support. So
Right.
if you're in it for you, get out. Because these groups will, marginalized groups, especially people of color, specifically black people, and especially the whole gay community, they will continue to march forward towards equality and safety with or without you. And preferably without you if you're not being sincere about being an ally to them. Like that's the biggest key to me is because being genuine covers the whole spectrum of it. It means that you can take criticism. It means that you can recognize when people who also claim to be an ally are being full of shit. It means that you can recognize and accept in yourself when your allyship is looking funny in the light and apologize and correct it or just get the hell on altogether.
Indeed. All right. What about you, Jeremy?
I agree with everything Candace said, and I would also just like to add probably the biggest. I gotta confess, I kind of don't believe in. Well, I don't like the term ally. I don't believe in. Like, I don't like the term necessarily, but I get it. But probably the biggest thing is just having empathy for people, which is pretty much the basic, like, human 101. But like the when you're in a privileged group or a privileged situation, it's like, well, this don't affect me. Well, why would I have to give a fuck? And a lot of people skate by with that, but that's not a very tangible way to look at life, and not a very tangible way to look at people, because when the shoe is on the other foot, a lot of people want to raise hell, and it's like, well, hold up now. You don't have empathy for other people, so why the fuck everybody got to stop the world for you?
Right.
Like I said, if just be a decent motherfucker, just be a decent human being that cares about other human beings, and just know that speaking to something that I can relate to. I used to be and I've talked to actually. Candice, didn't we? Me and Candice had a conversation on this when we used to do Ratchet Ramblings on Crown of Collars. This was when we did a mid-season recap of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, and it was the time that Stevie Stevenson guy um, went on his killed that elderly man and went on this his rampage, and it was about the whole men are trash thing. And I used to be a not all men ass dude myself. Um, Primarily because I was young, dumb, stupid, thought I knew everything, and it took somebody dragging the fuck out of me, more or less, for me to get it and to be like, to take a step back outside of myself and be like, oh, well, these are women's experiences, and who the fuck am I to tell me? Who the fuck am I to tell them that their experience is wrong because I want to defend men and shit? I don't deal with men. I don't date men. They do. So obviously, it's some, just without getting deep, there's got to be some truth to it. So maybe I should shut the fuck up and then get into the larger picture when you talk about sexism and misogyny and patriarchy and societal harmful gender roles and how it's socialized and stuff. I stepped back and like, oh, men really are trash. Like, there's some truth to this shit. So
Mm-hmm.
just and just with that, just doing your Googles, just listening to people, doing your own research and having empathy, I think that what constitutes as a good ally, quote unquote. And also knowing when to shut the fuck up, when to advocate and when to shut the fuck up.
Indeed. Okay, I think we're going to touch on some of the things that you guys just said as we go through these 10 talking points. So let's get into it. The first one says, being an ally is about listening. The tagline under this was basically just, quote unquote, shut up and listen. And I'm going to read this as the writer wrote. I believe it was a white man that wrote this. So,
You got to take that with a grain of salt.
Got to take this grain of salt with a grain of salt.
Inception. Saltception is what we call it.
He said, as someone striving to be an ally, the most important thing we can do is listen to as many voices of those we're allying ourselves with as possible. I think that it's fitting that this was the first point, because I have noticed this, especially on Twitter, because Twitter is a huge platform, doesn't matter what anybody says, and it's a huge hub of information and misinformation.
Yep.
But a lot of, like you were saying, Jeremy, a lot of people, they don't want to take the time to stop and listen. No, we say this all the time with white people not wanting to listen. They may let you say it, but they're not listening. They're not taking what you say and breaking it down and consuming it and really getting into it. They don't want to hear what it is that you have to say, because they feel like their way is the way to be. And I think that it's foolish to think that you can sit there and say, I'm an ally, I'm here to help you, but then I'm going to silence your voice. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to listen and understand your perspective. I just want to say what I have to say, basically making it about themselves, which we'll get into later. More on that, about making allyism about yourself. But I agree, shut up and listen. If you, like me, even though I'm in the community, I recognize my privilege as a cisgender man. Even though I'm a gay man, I still have privilege over transsexual people. So I never take it upon myself to try to stand up and speak for transgender people, trans women and trans men. I let them do the speaking and I listen.
Right.
And then I'm there to help prop you up and get the voice out, whatever needs to be done. But in order for me to be an ally, I understand that I have to listen to what it is that you guys are going through, what it is that you want to be said, and how you want to relate your stories and your trials.
Also, it's because you watch, Curtis. That's another thing. If you ever want to figure out if somebody's an ally, quote unquote, just pay attention to if they tweet or say or whatever. If they act like they don't watch, then you know they full of shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Because mustardness is next to head assness. Write that down.
But you know what? I kind of don't agree because I know, I don't mean to shake the table, but I mean, I noticed that a lot of black women who break their necks to go up for black people, people of color, and the whole Men Are Dangerous platform, they at times get very silent when it comes to the gay community and the trans community. So, and these are people who make great strides when it comes to equality for black people, and they get very quiet when safety comes up for the gay community and the trans community. So, and they look like they wash, but they magically forget to be present and accounted for in certain times. It's really strange.
That's good.
No, that's an excellent point, and I think that goes back to, I've seen this talked about, I don't know if I heard it on a podcast or if I've seen it on Twitter, where the thought on that is, people's what's the word? Their compassion for marginalized groups stops at their intersection. And I think a lot of people, especially in your example, black people, black men, black women, cisgendered men and women, their compassion stops at their intersection, and they don't extend that empathy to gay men, lesbian women, transgender men, transgender women, bisexual men, bisexual women, intersex, pansexual, non-gender conforming, because that's below their intersection, and for whatever reason they can't or they refuse to wrap their heads around that or be able. But it still goes back to the same thing. Like, if they would. Sometimes it's like, if you would actually, maybe not shut up, but if you would listen to those people, then maybe you could be able to bridge that gap. But a lot of those times, people like to be loud and wrong.
Yeah.
And it's hard to steer people away from being loud and wrong.
It's so contagious.
That too, because it's like a domino effect. When one person stands up and be like, I am loud and I am wrong and you will hear me, and then every motherfucker's like, well, shit, let me get my motherfucking soapbox too. And it's just like, can we just not? Okay, let's move on a little bit. So the next one says, stop thinking of ally as a noun. It says, being an ally isn't a status. The moment that we decide, quote unquote, I'm an ally, we're in trouble.
I agree with that one. I agree.
Okay, go explain that, because I'm on the fence a little bit about that, but I want to hear.
I think what he's saying is like, and this is just my interpretation, and again, I could be wrong. But I think what he's saying is like, think about like the black men on Twitter who call themselves, I'm a feminist, I'm a male feminist, whatever. But yet they still tweeting ashy, or still tweeting or still follow ashy men, or they're quick to be like, well, not all men, but don't correct the ashy and dangerous men, but they want to self-proclaim as like, I'm here for you, I love you, I'm an ally, quote unquote. So he's saying, don't call yourself it, don't talk about it, be about it. At least that's what I got from it.
Okay, so you think that this is more saying the power lies in not the nomenclature, but the actual action.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That I can agree with.
Yeah, I think because I mean, I got the article pulled up right now, and when I first read it, it kind of was like maybe it's the way it was worded, but then as I kept reading, he pretty much was saying, you know, don't you only as much of an ally as your actions show you to be. Like that's what the rest of that number 2 went on to say. So, but yeah, when I first read it, I was like,
Maybe that was what threw me off because I read through the whole thing and I was like, this...
Yeah, I think the title. It's like when you on Twitter and you see an article that the title throws you off, but then when you click on it and actually read it, it's like, oh, this title was misleading as fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole other topic.
Speaking of being loud and wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Okay. So the next one says, ally is not a self-proclaimed identity. I think we touched on this a little bit. Because really, being an ally is not an identity at all, but it's vitally important that we understand that we cannot simply decide we are allies. Being in solidarity is something we can strive for, but in the end, it's the choice of those we are attempting to ally ourselves to as to whether they trust us enough to call us an ally. I don't really have much to say on that. I agree. Because it's easy for you to, as we were saying, to stand up and say, here's my pen. I'm going to put it on my, my Best Buy polo. And I'm an ally. And you can't tell me otherwise. And it's like, but are you really being an ally? I think 2 and 3 go together because saying you're an ally, but you don't have the actions to back it up. Or it even goes back to number 1. Or you're not listening to the group that you're supposed to be an ally to. It's like, well, this, so you know what I'm saying? This, it feels real. I don't know, Umar Johnson to me. It's like I'm a self-proclaimed this and I'm a self-proclaimed that, and it's like, okay, but where are the receipts, sis?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it kind of takes me back to like two instances. Like it's what's been going on in the trans community has been really widespread, and the murder rate of trans people is going up, especially by way of hate crimes. And you'll have people be like, well, that's wrong. It's wrong to kill trans people, but there's never a but.
Right.
There's no but. You can't say, well, I do believe that the gay community and the trans community should be safe, but trans people be lying. There's no but. There's never a but. You can't be an ally when there's a but that comes after a statement. There's never a but. And like same thing with like when they do it to black people. I understand that police unjustly killing the black man was wrong, but what about black on black crime? There's no but.
There's no but.
You're not an ally. You can't be an ally and have buts, and 2, you can't force your way into the safe spaces of marginalized groups because you happen to stand up for them on Twitter a time or two, or you went to a protest a time or two. It takes time to be trusted in these safe spaces, because historically what happens when marginalized groups let white people, let's just be honest, white people in their safe spaces, and same with the gay community and trans community, when they have let straight people in their communities, we still come in, it's still danger to them. So like they said, if you're not told that you're considered an ally and you're trusted, stop titling yourself as such. Just title yourself as a decent human being that believe people deserve common decency and respect and a right to life.
Agreed. And the reason why I brought up Umar Johnson is because that so clearly stands out in my mind as someone who claims to be pro-black and I'm here for the black community. And it's like, but on the real, a large percentage of black people don't fuck with you. And a lot of black people will be quick to say, don't speak for us. And I think it's the same thing with being an ally. It's like, don't speak for us. Speak for yourself. And if we like what you have to say, and the same with trans people. If trans people like what you have to say, if they trust you, then they will invite you into those spaces. Because there's no shortage of a need for more voices to be heard. So if you are, as you said, Candice, being a decent human being, they're not going to shun you. They're going to be like, oh, here's somebody who gets it. Let's bring them on. Let's, you know, you're not going to be shunned if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're out here on some bullshit, though, well, that's different.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Next, it says, allies don't take breaks. The thing about oppression is that it is constant. Well, that's a word. You may be white, but at least that was a word.
Yeah.
It says those who are those who are oppressed and marginalized in our society do not get to take breaks or respite. Ooh, another word.
Come on with these words now.
Listen, I feel like I need to pull out my goddamn pocketbook. Like, we about to do offering?
Right.
Come on with these TI words.
It says, thus, if you truly want to act in solidarity, you cannot simply retreat into your privilege when you just don't want to engage.
Ooh.
I want to know what
out of all the 10 points, I feel like that one is like the one that you should like plaster on the poster, a T-shirt on the wall, and just hand it out to people. If you're an ally, there's no days off, because like it says, the people being oppressed, the people being killed, harmed, hated against, we don't get breaks. Yeah. You don't get racism. Don't take Christmas off.
Exactly. I don't get to take my blackness off for even a second.
Right.
I never get to have a break from being black. I never get to have a break from being gay. I never get to have a break from all of the different intersections that I reside in. None of us do. So right. I absolutely agreed with that.
Oh, that was a word there, but
that was refreshing.
Yeah, that's why I, to a degree, and like I know everybody has their limit, and you can't be mad, quote unquote, all the time. But to a degree, that's why I don't like throw shade and get on people that, you know, people deem as like always mad, quote unquote, because like the article just said, nigga, oppression don't take no days off. You know what I mean? Nope. Racism don't take no days off. Sexism don't take no days off. Homophobia don't take no days off. Transphobia don't take no days off. Like, nigga, all this shit is constant. So if some people are like mad all the time, quote unquote, nigga, just look around. They got reasons to be mad. So, you know,
Solange told you, motherfuckers got a right to be mad.
Right. So, yeah. Hey, if you're not trying to help with the food, then get the fuck out the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. It occurred to me, you know, because we were given this 1 point so much praise, that I should highlight that even though a white man wrote this article, he got a lot. Actually, I believe he says it in the article. He got all of his points from a black woman, like a blog that he goes to. Her name is Mia McKenzie. So, you know, we have to give her that, because, you know, I don't want to make it seem like a white person came up with all of this on their own. But I also am not detracting from the fact that he was able to read the things that she's written, and he gets it, and he can relay it and regurgitate it and package it in a way that lets you know that he understands, and he is not just going in one ear and going out the other.
And also giving her credit, because we see that a lot where people will take credit for folks' work and act like they came up with it on their own, and
especially from black women.
Right, especially from black women, and take it off as their own. X and LB. But so
talking about shaking the damn table.
So shout out to him for obviously not, you know, like you said, detracting from his understanding and his point, but also for saying that, hey, I got this from a black woman and I understand it, and I'm also, while writing this article, giving her credit and you should also check her out too. So shout out to him for that, because too many motherfuckers try to profit off the backs of black women and don't give no credit. So that was dope of him.
Agreed. All right. It says allies educate themselves constantly. Standing in solidarity with a marginalized or oppressed person or people means that we need to know our shit. We need to educate ourselves about the issues facing those with whom we want to be allied, and about the history of said oppression. What you should not do, though, is expect those with whom you want to ally yourself to teach you. That is not their responsibility.
I, dog, I feel like we should share this article at least twice a day, dog. This shit is fun. He was listening to a seat at the table when you wrote this shit.
Listen,
Yeah, he didn't come to play games, but again, like
no.
you said, he referenced me and Mackenzie, um,
Yes.
and so he knew when to sit down and be thankful for Black Girl Time. Oh, her blog or website is called Black Girl Dangerous. I just scrolled back up, but listen, one thing that I find myself doing is shutting up when I don't know shit, and maybe that comes with me getting older and growth. But if I am not aware or if I don't know something, I'm not about to stick my foot in the pool and try to swim with the people who have taken the time to get educated on the subject. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to listen, which I feel like this point goes back to the very first point. To learn, you have to be willing to listen. So listen and then do your own homework. Twitter is infamous for telling the gay community and the trans community and the Black community that we need to teach people.
For
We
free.
need to teach them. We need to help them understand. No,
Yeah.
the fuck we do not. Your computer, your smartphone, all this technology, and you are still choosing to be ignorant. That is a choice.
Yeah.
The resources are at your fingertips. You can learn a lot on Twitter just by changing up who you follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to know what it's like to be tolerant and to be genuine and to understand what happens to these marginalized groups, you can learn that just by no longer following the shitty people who sit around and bash the gay community and trans community all day, bash Black women all day, make jokes about our trauma. You can learn a lot just by unfollowing those type of people and following better people.
Agreed. An example of this that sticks out in my mind is, so this past week with the whole Breakfast Club thing and Lil Duval, I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling away and I was hesitant to listen to some of the podcasts that I like to listen to every week because it's cis het Black men, and let's be real, a lot of them fumble and bumble over this topic, and I didn't want to be listening to a bunch of just foolishness, for lack of a better term. But one conversation on a podcast stuck out to me because the guy said so, and I like the podcast. It's an ally podcast, but the guy was saying, I heard somewhere recently, or maybe something where someone was saying tranny is offensive, and he was like, I didn't know that shit. Nobody ever told me. And I said, and therein lies the rub, because here you are speaking on this issue because it's a hot topic and you feel like things need to be said, and that's all fine and dandy. But the problem with it is you have chosen to speak, but you also chose to stay ignorant prior to your conversation. If I feel like if you're going to be speaking about the transgender experience, then you need to take the time to actually Google a few things about it, because I'm sure in a simple Google search, it would not have taken you long to know that that term is deemed offensive. And so it perfectly highlights this point of everybody wanted to do this. They want to jaw jack about topics, but nobody is. Oh, I don't want to say nobody. I'm speaking in general terms. They don't want to take the time to educate themselves. I'm with you, Candice. Like, if I don't know about a subject, I'm not the person to be out here looking the fuck stupid. All right, I don't want nobody out here making me look stupid, and I don't want to be out here looking stupid my damn self.
Correct.
So, in all instances, I feel like you need to take that time to educate yourself. And don't sit there and expect a hand. Like, you're a cis het man. You probably don't know any trans people. You've never met any. You're not seeking them out. So why would somebody just randomly come to you and say that's an offensive term, you shouldn't say it, and here's why? But you
I
chose.
never thought about it like that. Like,
You know what I'm saying? But you
yeah,
chose to talk about this topic without doing any research. And it's no shade to the person. The conversation wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They made it seem like it was worse than what it really was. But that just really stood out to me, that I think a lot of people do that with homophobia. You have heterosexual people like, well, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. Okay, but if you don't actively seek these type of people in your life, or you're just not blessed to have them in your life, and I'm calling it a blessing because we are the shit, then you're not going to know. And no one is going to just randomly walk up to you and start handing you information. You have to seek information. You have to seek education. Nobody just randomly comes up to your ass and hands you a motherfucking diploma and now your ass is an architect. You have to go seek the information.
correct. That is a very valid point. In order to enter into certain professions, you have to take your ass and go to college. You have to apply to get into college to get this education. You have to do your research when you're in these classes. So why wouldn't you think you have to do your homework on things that you are not knowledgeable about? The
Yeah, I
other
don't
part
know
is
what the.
people are
Oh, go ahead.
comfortable in ignorance because I'll be honest. So you're right. I am blessed to have gay friends, and I appreciate them like tremendously. And the other, while I don't know for a fact that I don't know any transgender men or women because it's not my business to know how they identify or share that information if they're not comfortable. Let's get that out the way. But like even so, just being on social media and following decent people, I have seen over and over again things where people have tweeted the term tranny is offensive. I don't even like to say the F word at all. Like I don't even just like the way it comes out, honestly. But even like it's you living under a rock if you've never seen somebody say the term tranny is offensive. The F word is very offensive to the gay community. Like, it's just like when white people go on these tangents about, well, black people say nigga, so why can't we say nigger? Like, come on. Come on.
Right. And I think the other thing, and we can, unless Jeremy wants to chime in, we can move on, is in addition to being comfortable in ignorance, I don't understand this mindset that if someone tells you that something is offensive to them or to their community, and please don't use this word, why do you need an explanation? If someone tells you tranny is offensive, and let me stop saying it, because this is probably the first time I've said it in years.
Yeah.
But I use that as an example because I saw that on Twitter years ago where someone said this is offensive. And you know what? Because I recognize my privilege in that situation, I said, okay, I'm not going to use this term when I'm not going to make jokes about it. I'm not going to use it in my everyday, well, not that I was, but and I didn't need a reason. I wasn't seeking out a transgender person saying, why is this offensive? Sometimes just take shit at face value. If someone tells you that the shit is offensive and they don't want to hear it, let it be that.
Well,
Because you don't want to explain to white people why nigga is offensive. So,
and I'm glad you said that, Curtis. That actually catapults me into this. With the fat ass Cheeto
oh
in
God.
office over the past couple of weeks, electing to via Twitter at that, which nigga the fuck, but trying electing to ban transgender people from the military, and also with the Breakfast Club incident, and also with Dave Chappelle refusing to um, stop saying, stop making low hanging fruit, low bar transgender jokes. A lot of people in the past couple of weeks have looked very funny Because when Bill Maher said nigga and said house nigger, there wasn't all of this nuance as to well for white from white people obviously, but there you know, like Candace said, we really don't give too much of a damn about white folks. You know, we care about black folks and we care about black shit. Um, there wasn't a lot of this nuance. Well, he's a comedian. You know, why is this offensive? Blah blah blah. There wasn't any of this. You know, well, it's comedy. You know, y'all too sensitive. You know, blah blah blah. Every black person that wasn't on some Killer Mike shit was had a unified opinion of, yeah, this ain't no shit he should be saying, dog. Like, damn the context, damn how he said it, he shouldn't be saying this shit. But when it comes to this stuff, when it comes to LGBTQ issues, and like I said, specifically these past 2 weeks, transgender issues, and you, uh, motherfuckers been looking real funny in the light, you know, and it's just, it amazes me how we can't connect those dots and see that, but that's also what privilege does. It blinds you to shit that should be obvious to your face to make the parallel is, oh, this is how this is similar and this is why this is fucked up.
And you and I talked about this before we started recording. With the whole comedian thing, I missed the memo where we're supposed to treat everything that a comedian says as a joke. Because good comedians, it's usually clear and easy to tell when they're joking and when they're being serious.
A lot of jokes that comedians tell is rooted in truth. Like, a lot of comedians speak based on their experiences. They speak based on their thoughts, opinions, and beliefs and shit. Like, this thing where every comedian is a cheesy, ha-ha, slapstick, just joking type of thing, that's bullshit.
Especially when it comes to social issues.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just put that blinder on and be like, well, they're a comedian and they should be able to say what they want to say. No, the fuck they shouldn't.
No.
They have to be held responsible for the jokes that they choose to make, just like everybody else in the fucking world is held responsible, especially unless you white.
Yeah. I mean,
for the most part. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, somebody was like, well, didn't he joke on this? Didn't he joke on rape? Didn't he joke on murdering of women? And I had to remind him that shit was not funny either. Like, what the fuck? Like, and then I was like, didn't we see an increase in hate crimes when Trump was elected? And they was like, well, yeah. I was like, so don't tell me that public figures don't have the ability to sway the thoughts, opinions, and behaviors of people who are already hateful.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And to piggyback off that, Candace, because a lot of people, and even well-meaning people, they tried to do that with Lil Doodoo, and tried to diminish what he said.
Little snooze ball.
Yeah, little little shit thing. We can't. You can't try to devalue or make it seem like it's not a big deal what Lil Duval said because it's Lil Duval. Yes, Lil Duval, in the long game, in the long scope of history, of course, you as an individual, he's not going to influence how you think or have any impact on you or your beliefs. That's all well fine and dandy. But honestly, it's not about him and it's not about you. It's about the people that he is inciting violence against people that, like Candace said, some inciting violence that's already there. It's not like Lil Duval said this and this is just some new phenomenon where, oh shit, he's saying something new. What are we gonna do about this, guys? This is something that's already happening. And
exactly. I feel like, I want to say this real quick before I forget, because I feel like within the span, either right before or sometime after when he made that quote unquote that alleged joke, I saw an article about another transgender woman being killed. So,
right.
Number one, I don't know why why people are trying to sweep that under the rug as a joke when people are literally losing their lives. I just wanted to say that real quick. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, and and I'll be real quick, and then we can pass it to Candace if she has something to say, and then move on. But yeah, you can't. It's easier for you to say, "Well, Lil Duval don't impact my life, so who cares what he says?" Well, that's a very privileged and a very tone deaf thing for you to say when you're not on the receiving end of the violence that he is inciting, affecting
It's
you
very white. It's
or
a
people
very
that look
white.
right. Like when you guessed it on Crown and Collars, and we titled the episode like you said, Curtis, your Republican is showing.
That's it. I just have one more point in it because we have gone on a tangent, but it's important.
Yes,
My last thing, because you brought up Dave Chappelle and we talked about this before, the whole thing with him and the jokes that he's making, and I haven't seen them, but they're creating enough uproar that I'm assuming that they were crass.
I've read them. Basically his trans jokes are literally, "Hey guys, aren't trans people weird? Aren't they gross? Ha ha ha!" Like that's basically more or less the gist of his jokes.
And so my thought on that is we've been rocking with Dave Chappelle since what? I mean, since the '90s, to be honest. But as far as mainstream Dave Chappelle, when the Chappelle Show came out,
Right.
we know the caliber of comedy that he's capable of. So for you in 2017 to make such poor jokes where you're just punching down, it's like we know that you should know better because we have seen you do better. We have seen you be better.
Right.
So for you to be making these easy, like you say, low hanging fruit jokes about trans people, it's why. I'm like, you don't have of all the shit in the world to make jokes about trans people. Why? Why is that part of your set? I don't understand it. And if you're gonna tell a trans joke, at least be funny about it. Like just because it's coming out of your mouth. And I think a lot of comedians fall victim to that. They start smelling themselves and they think I'm a comedian, so everything I say is funny. And that's not the case, especially when you're joking on people's livelihood or their just existence. And
Like on the surface, it may seem like, what's so bad about him saying that? Well, first of all, just saying someone's first of all, the jokes that he's saying play into the trans panic factor that gets trans people, specifically trans women, killed. Like, if you
mm-hmm.
can't tell me you can't see the correlation of, hey, aren't trans people silly, and aren't isn't it funny how a guy can just put on a dress and think he's a woman, and ain't that strange, guys? You can't tell me how you don't see how that plays into the trans panic that cis men, and oftentimes in these cases cis black men. You can't tell me how you can't see the correlation of that kind of panic of, oh, this group of people is weird, and they are weird, and they will act weird towards you. That feeds into the fear that gets them killed. You can't be intellectually lazy and see and can't make that connection.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, let's get back on track. We have about four more, and then we'll be done with this. So it says, allies don't need to be in the spotlight. True solidarity means supporting the work of those you're allying yourself to, not solely creating a platform for your own voice and work. Sure, your privilege may afford you the spotlight sometimes, and there are times when you can use that spotlight to talk to people who share your identity, but whenever possible, allies turn the spotlight away from themselves and to the voices that are so often marginalized and ignored. Um, I felt like he hit that one on the head. Like that was spot on. And I think we touched on this a little bit already of calling yourself an ally and wanting to be in the spotlight and getting a cookie and a gold star for being an ally is not the point. You need to move out of the way, and if you have a platform, you need to use that platform to uplift the people who are in the intersections that you're supposed to be caping for and let them speak. And if they choose to let you speak for them, okay.
Correct.
But you need to be comfortable enough in your allyship, if that's really what you are, to step down from the pedestal and let someone else step up and speak. And you be there as support.
Yep, I agree. That's why, like, on our show, like, it's only so much me and Dan can say. Like, usually if we're talking about things that are like dead ass specifically unique to black women, like we'll have black women on. Like Candice has shit. Candice basically our third co-host, more or less.
Right.
Uh,
Between her and Lexi.
right, her and Lexi.
Shout out to Lexi.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna have Lexi on Ratchet Ramblings very, very soon. Um, but yeah, like when it's stuff that is unique and specific to black women, we do our damnedest to like have black women on. If we can't have them on, we'll speak on the thing generally, but we won't try to act like this is something that's that we just dead ass know. And then if it is something that we know, we'll give credit where credit is due and say, hey, I learned this from black women.
Just like this article.
Yep.
All right. It says allies focus on those who share their identity. Beyond listening, arguably the most important thing that I can do to act in solidarity is to engage those who share my identity. Jeremy, I will give you props that you do this often. I see a lot of people on Twitter doing it. And that is when you are caping for black women, you caping for trans people, you caping for everyone else in the LGBTQ spectrum, you don't need to be focusing on them. You need to be focusing on the people like you that are causing them harm and causing them to have spaces that are not safe. As a gay man, if you say, "Okay, I'm there for you. I'm an ally," I don't need you going off or speaking to or having anything to do with other gay men. What I need is for you to get on these straight men because they are the ones that are making it unsafe for gay men. So on and so forth for lesbian women, trans men, etc., etc. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle. People want to speak and they want their voice and, as the article said, their work to be considered so badly that they don't target the groups that they need to be targeting. You need to target the groups with the privilege, not the disadvantaged.
Yeah, I don't have
Agreed.
anything else to say. You hit that right on the head.
Yep.
Also, well, let's just point out how men are dangerous to all of these groups of people. Straight women, gay women, trans women, gay men, trans men, bisexual men and women. Like, if you don't understand why we say men are trash, you don't want to understand. Because
Right.
this one group of people poses life-threatening consequences to the people that they come in contact with. Like, that is crazy to me.
And I'll just piggyback off of that, Candace, even to each other. Like, how many articles have we seen where some man has killed, presumably a straight man, how many times a man has killed another man over a woman? So, so it's like, cis men are often not only dangerous to every other community, but shit, even to each other. So it's like, no, it's us. Like it. At this point, you just don't want to get in. You just don't care. But if that's what you want to do, then you can't say shit when people say you trash, dog. Like you can't have it both ways. Where you don't want to address the problem, but you also don't want to be considered part of the problem. That ain't how it works.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. If you are comfortable in your phobias, if you are comfortable in your homophobia, if you are comfortable being transphobic, if you are comfortable being a misogynist, that's cool. Say that, but be honest so that people can write you the fuck off. Like, don't
Right.
tiptoe around it. Like, be who you are so that we could take the proper precautions and protect ourselves and get you the fuck out of here.
Right. And that's so crazy to me that people want to have these views, but they don't want to lose people. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You cannot be transphobic and expect people to still rock with you. You can't be homophobic or misogynistic and expect not to lose people. It just doesn't work that way because you are literally hating a group of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know. Okay. Next it says, when criticized or called out, allies should listen, apologize, act accountably, and act differently going forward. So there are a few lessons more important for allies to understand than this one. When you screw up and damage trust and hurt and anger those that you have allied yourself to, listening is important, but it's not enough, Charlemagne. Apologizing earnestly is important, but it's not enough, DJ Envy. Working hard to make sure you are accountable to those you've wronged is important, but it's not enough, The Breakfast Club. In addition to all of these, you have a responsibility to learn from the mistakes you've made and to do better going forward.
Yes.
I just agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything to add to that. Well, I do. Hey, just because you apologize don't mean the group of people that you offended, the group of people that you put at danger has to accept it. Like,
I think that needs to be not because y'all can.
Yeah.
I think that's because okay, I have made this kind of public and people disagree, and that's fine, whatever. But I'm not with the whole this person was a head ass and said or did some fucked up things and they are woke now and we need to forgive them. I'm not with that shit. Cause here's my man Rashawn is from Single Simulcast. He said this and I could not agree more. You are more than welcome and allowed to walk forward, but no one has to forgive the footprints you left behind. And I apply that to, because when I say that, I think a lot of people think that, well, you just applying that to other people, but you're not applying it to yourself. That includes me too. Like, I make it no secret that I used to be a goddamn dumbass, and I have said and did and had some fucked up ass views. And if somebody searched my tweets and wanted to, if they saw me today and was like, he talking a good game, but I wonder what he used to think. You know what I mean? And if they searched my tweets and found something that offended them and they thought was fucked up, you know what? That's their prerogative, and they are completely welcome to do that. They don't have to forgive me or just gloss over that shit just because I'm woke now, quote unquote. They have that right, dog. So you can't. I think people do that a lot where, and it's usually, let's keep it a buck and call a spade. We usually pick and choose when we want to do that shit, when we forgive and when we don't want to forgive. So I think that's, keeping it with the whole ally thing, I think that's a one thing that really does, I think people, like we just make concessions and shit, because, over these past couple of weeks, a lot of, and keeping the theme here, a lot of male feminists, quote unquote, have had their cards pulled over problematic shit. Not even that they said 3, 4, 5 years ago, nigga, like 3 fucking weeks ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and they got people that's caping for them saying it's a mistake and then they, blah blah blah. But it's like, dog, if you want that spotlight of being an ally, you also cannot shirk that shit where you saying and doing some shit that contradicts your allyship. You can't have it both ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think something important to highlight here as far as the fucking up and apologizing is a lot of times apologies are not sincere, and that's why people continue to get people the fuck out of here when they fuck up and then they try to apologize, because the shit is not sincere. You're only apologizing because you don't want to lose sponsors, you don't want to lose your job, you don't want to lose your show, you don't want to lose future opportunities. And if that's how you feel, you might as well not apologize, Bill Maher. Like, because that shit is not sincere. Hello. But if you call yourself an ally and you misstep, then you need to be humble, and you need to really, that apology needs to be genuine. Mm-hmm. And even then, you have to realize that being an ally, for whatever groups that you're trying to ally yourself with, black women or women in general, LGBTQ, whatever the case may be, the spaces are already very difficult to navigate, and there's not a lot of safe spaces. So if people don't want to rock with you because you made a misstep, you just have to roll with the punches and work that much harder to be a better ally.
Yep.
Okay, last thing. It says allies never monopolize the emotional energy. This one really resonated with me when I read it. It says one of the more common and egregious mistakes supposed allies can make is to expect emotional energy from those to whom we ally ourselves. To once again quote Mia McKenzie, shout out to her again, the people who experience racism, misogyny, ableism, queerphobia, transphobia, classism, etc. are exhausted. The last thing they need is our monopolizing of the emotional energy to only further their exhaustion. Surely allies need emotional support, but it must come from other allies. Don't expect marginalized people to do the emotional work for you or feel sorry for you or forgive you. I don't really have anything to add to that. That was spot on.
Yep. Yep.
No, yeah. I mean, this article was a really dope one, and
It was. I mean, but shout out to I don't think I even saw the guy's name who wrote it, but shout out to Mia McKenzie because he basically he says in the article he got all 10 of these points from her. And I just want to say one thing, and then we can move on to the next segment. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Dave Chappelle. Stop. I would like people to stop saying that people, society, whatever the case, is too sensitive. Because you can't get away with the jokes that you were able to get away with in the 90s or in the early 2000s. I need people to understand that as a society, we are constantly moving forward. I mean, even with that Oompa Loompa in the White House, we are still moving forward. And so when we learn, we start doing better, then we hold ourselves to a higher standard. So yeah, jokes that were made in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, they may not fly today. And that's not because people are being sensitive. That's because as a society, we have learned and we are doing better. So you are the odd apple talking about, oh, we need to go back to this and people are being too sensitive. No, if in 1999 I didn't know any better about making jokes about trans people, and now in 2017 I know better, it's not up to me to say, oh, well, people are just being too sensitive. No, I know better. And I hold myself to a higher standard. And that as a collective is what we do. But we always have these people saying, oh, you're being too sensitive. People too sensitive. No, we're not sensitive. It's just we understand now why that shit is not funny. And it doesn't make you a bad person if back then you thought it was funny. But because you didn't have all of the knowledge that you have now. So I just would really, I would really like to stop seeing that, stop hearing that about people being too sensitive, because that all, and again, along the same veining, that usually applies to a marginalized group that is beneath you. You're making jokes and all of a sudden everybody too sensitive. But when it's jokes of that fall in your backyard, you ready, you turn into motherfucking Hercules, and you know what I'm saying, you want everybody to ride with you, get on their motherfucking horses. We got to go fight the White Walkers all of a sudden because it was something that resonates with you. Now you're not being too sensitive when it's something that affects you. But if it's a joke about a trans person, oh, they being too sensitive. If it's a joke about homosexuals, oh, they being too sensitive. If it's a joke about black women, everybody just too damn sensitive. No, people not too sensitive. We know better, and we holding your ass to a higher standard, just like we hold ourselves to a higher standard, or we should. I just had to get that out.
And I'll piggyback off that real quick, and then we'll move on. Well, then if Candice has something to add on, but like that shit is super wild coming from black folks. Like, like we're on Twitter a lot, and we see, people pining for old Twitter, quote unquote, or the golden age, quote unquote, of Twitter, and people be sounding just like fucking dude bros and white men. Like, just think of like how SJW, or social justice warrior, has been turned into a pejorative. That shit came from white dudes. That shit came from white dudes on like game. If you if you talk to any black gamer, man or woman, and you ask them stories about like Xbox Live chats and message boards and stuff, they will tell you horror stories of
Yes,
like
indeed.
just the most vilest racism, the most violent misogyny. Like it will blow your motherfucking mind. Like that's where those terms used as pejoratives came from. It came from white dudes, and to see niggas use that shit, it blows my mind because it's like the example we brought up with Bill Maher. Like when it's us, we expect the people to be like, well, that's fucked up. You can't say that. I understand why you would, have an issue with X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to women, when it comes to LGBTQ people, like all that empathy goes out the window, dog. And it's like I said, you can't have it both ways. Well, you don't want to be considered part of the problem, but you either adding on or not speaking up and out against the problem.
And we'll wrap it up, like you said, unless Candace has something to add.
No, no, I think good
Stop.
points were made.
Go
No, I
ahead.
think good points were made. The article is good, but what we've added has been even better.
Yeah. My last thought on that is stop thinking that people can't read between the lines. Like when you say that shit, oh, can we go? I wish we could go back to this Twitter, or I wish we could go back to the '90s when we could make these. Just say what it is that you're actually saying. Is that you want to go back to a time when you could be mean with no consequences, because that's what you're pining
Yes.
for.
Holy shit. Listen, I'm so tired. So, was it Friday perhaps? It had to be Friday when Dave Chappelle was being discussed, and I was so damn tired of seeing, well, why y'all not outraged that he joked about rape? Why y'all not, like, stop doing that. Like you said, just say you want to put your phobics in the atmosphere and go about your day. Just say you comfortable with certain groups dealing with the things that they deal with because you don't have to deal with it. You don't care
Right.
about the transphobic jokes because you're not a trans person. Just be honest. Like sometimes it's, even though it still make you a shitty person, sometimes you gotta live in your truth and say, hey, I don't deal with transphobia, so I don't care about it. Cause that's pretty much what it boils down to. I don't care about what's happening in the gay community because I got hetero privilege. Like, just be honest about the shit.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
And
that's basically what it is, and also Candace, because me and you actually like, for those of you for y'all that don't know, if you haven't, newsflash, but me and Candace, even though we do podcasts together, we actually are friends, and we talk about stuff. We were talking about stuff. We were talking about this. Was it? Yeah, like I said, was it Friday, Candace, or yesterday? Either one of the two. And like, nigga, people when you said like, well, why ain't nobody outraged when Dave Chappelle made those other jokes? Well, I hate to be this person, but well, actually, people were outraged. People did say stuff, and you know what he did? Well, I haven't really paid attention to his stand up or whatever, so I can't tell you either way. But you know what he did on those topics? He didn't make those jokes again, but he was called out to the carpet on these transgender jokes once, and he didn't give a fuck, and he did them again. So again, what hill you trying to die on here?
The one where they don't have to be bothered with the fallout from shit like that, and that's what's so
yeah.
crazy about it. But I had this conversation with Curtis, and I had this conversation with you. A lot of black women are homophobic and transphobic, and they are passive aggressive about it, and they sneaky about it, and they hide behind shit like, oh, Friday, some fake scenario came on the timeline, and it was saying like it was like a Dear Jane letter, and the woman was like, oh, I've been married for 5 years, me and my
Oh,
husband
I
trying to
saw that.
have
Oh,
kids, but he doesn't know that he didn't even say trans. The fake shit said tranny. That's how I know that it was fake, first of all, because transgender people don't refer to themselves as that. and they was like, well,
Right.
I'm trans and I never told them. And you know what it did? It gave people ammunition to be fake outraged and be like, see, that's why they get killed. See, because they be lying to people. Look at that shit. Look at that shit. And I'm like, that's not real. There's no way that's real. But this is the type of hate that you see. And it's not always in your face hate. It's like passive aggressive like that. Like, see, they lie to people and that's how they get killed. See, shit like that. Here's the thing. Even if transgender people don't aren't forthcoming with people about how they were born, the penalty for not telling somebody your business is not death. Like, let's get
Right.
that straight. The penalty for not being honest is not death. Because let's be like, if we're gonna keep it very, very real, a lot of you men, a lot of you niggas have done a lot of lying in your lifetime to women, a lot of cheating, a lot of beating on them, a lot of getting them pregnant and abandoning them, and the penalty for that was not death for you.
Exactly.
Right.
I would say, I would even venture to add to that, even if you lie to the United States government, the penalty is not death. They'll throw that ass in jail, but they're not gonna kill you.
Hello.
Right.
And my last thought on that, and we can wrap it up, is what y'all was saying earlier about, walking your truth. Say what it is that you're really saying, and go have a good day. But even if you choose not to walk in your truth, don't expect other people not to hold you to the truth that they see.
I have one more thing to add. Also,
Go ahead.
um, and for the record, everything that I've known, everything that I know about, the very little, even though I'm still learning, I'm still getting up on these topics and these issues and these experiences that transgender people face. And when I make my point, I'll cite some trans activists that I follow and stuff. Candice actually mentioned the podcast that one of them has. But either if trans people, and specifically trans women, do disclose, their lives are in danger just for the mere being trans. Like, their existence is a danger because other people, cisgendered men, kill them. Like, and particularly if they're a trans woman of color. I mean, if you look at the numbers, you look at the statistics, a lot of the killers are cisgendered black men. So if they do tell and they are walking in their truth, they're in danger. If they don't tell, they're in danger. So it's like, either way, their lives are in danger, and us as cisgendered people are using all these different scenarios and putting our lives and our feelings and our phobias at the forefront of these conversations, while also not inviting transgender people to the conversation, and also not listening to transgender people in these conversations that are saying that, hey, this ain't that, and this is not real, and I'm in danger whether I tell or not tell. And we are centering our feelings, but then also wonder why we see trans people and trans activists always mad, quote unquote, all the time. It's because we suck at being allies. We suck at being empathetic to people. We suck at having all the hot takes and all the loud and wrongness about these conversations about these people, but also not listening to these people. And then when they do speak, we push back on them like, well, y'all just X, Y, and Z, and y'all too woke and da 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 shit. So it's like, we want pats on the back because we vote Democrat because, fuck the Republicans, but we want pats on the back for being good people, quote unquote, because we vote Democrat, but we very Republican as fuck when these topics come up.
Oh, can we also point out and debunk this myth? The gay community and the trans community are not some rambunctious group of human beings who can't control themselves. Most straight men who identify as straight, they seek out trans men and women and gay men. Like, they're not just going around trying to turn y'all weird broke asses out. They got better shit to do. Like, for y'all to act like trans women are just going around tricking men, that is a damn lie. Most straight men seek out trans women. Most straight men are seeking out gay men and enjoy their company and enjoy the sex that they have with them. The only issue comes into play is when society finds out that that's what they like. And then they have to do shit like prove that they're masculine and kill and harm trans women and gay men. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, gay men and trans women are not going around trying to handcuff y'all and turn y'all out. Y'all are not the fuck okay when y'all act like that's the case.
Yep. Because you don't even see the reverse of that. Like, you don't see stories of women killing trans men. You don't see that. You know, it's only men. It's only cis men that get their masculinity so threatened that they have to kill somebody. Like, that shit don't happen the other way.
Nah.
Yep. I said this to Jeremy earlier. I was like, you know, I get so tired of the trans experience being reduced down, and you know, other avenues of life too. But those marginalized groups getting shredded down to just sex.
Yes.
Even like thinking about the Breakfast Club interview. Because I listened to it, I want to say it was the black guy who tips that I was listening when I listened, because I've never really listened to the Breakfast Club, blah 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 blah, whatever.
Right. Shout out to Rod.
Yeah, shout out to Rod.
So when I heard how the conversation actually went, they asked about the transgender ban, and immediately Lil Duval went to a sexual situation. Yes. And that happens too often, that we reduce our trans brothers and sisters, our gay brothers and sisters, our lesbian brothers and sisters,
to body parts,
and you know, whoever identifies outside of that spectrum to sexual consumption. Like, we are not here solely for your sexual consumption. And part of the reason, Jeremy, going back to what you were saying about everyone for the most part being sucky allies, it's because you are not even able to see these people's humanity. You can't be an ally to someone who you don't see as human. You see as just sexual pleasure for you.
Yeah.
If you're into it, or an abomination if you're not.
Yeah. We had this conversation also Friday, Curtis, where I said that I think a lot of women are intimidated by trans women. And I had this conversation with Jeremy, and it's because long gone are the days of them being running jokes. Trans women are making big moves in the communities where we reside. They are New York best-selling authors. They are running businesses. They are in movies. They are doing amazing in TV. They're doing amazing in fashion. They have hairlines. And we're not just talking about what trans women who were back in the day. The joke was that you could tell a trans woman was born as a man because of how they look. These women are beautiful. They are smart. They are educated. They are successful. And so I do believe some hetero women are intimidated and feel like they have to compete. And instead of competing, they feel like they could just knock them. And they say shit like, well, I could have kids. Listen, bitch, okay, kids is expensive. That ain't really no bragging right. Okay? Pregnancy wasn't fun. You picked the lowest, low-hanging, again, back to low-hanging jabs at trans women. Like, come on, get out of here.
And then even with that, Candice, like, not all cisgender women can have kids too. So if that's your measuring bar of like what is or isn't a woman, there are cisgender women that can't have kids. So like, what you saying? Like, what is it?
Yeah, what are we talking about here?
Like I said, it's a lot of. I feel like it's a lot of intimidation that leads to transphobia, and I also feel like a lot of straight women, specifically black women, love gay men until it's time to defend their safety and their right to life. They love their slang, their fashion, their makeup, the way they joke, the way they talk, their energy. It's like they try to use them as accessories, but when it's time to discuss the hate that they face, the violence that they face, they want to be silent. Yeah,
fight, fend for yourself. Yeah, I agree. So let's wrap up the conversation. Now, this episode obviously was a little heavy and was very trans gender speak heavy. I'm actually looking into having another transgender guest, or maybe I'll bring Lyric back, because part of this is, we're having this conversation, and as the article said, allies, we need to be speaking to each other. We don't need to be speaking to the marginalized group, but at the same time, we need to be uplifting that voice. So I don't want to make it seem like, we're just going to sit here talking about transgender issues and not actually have a transgender voice in it. So I definitely will revisit this and have that transgender voice.
Yeah,
So with that being said,
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. That episode you had with Lyric, I had that saved on my phone. That was a dope episode.
Yeah.
shout out to Lyric. Like I said, I reached out to her this past week, and I was like, we need to have you on the show again because we got shit to talk about. But we're gonna wrap it up on a lighter note. So in honor of Jeremy being on the podcast, we're gonna do misconnections instead of the usual queer. Paying homage to Crown and Collards. If you have not heard the episode I was on about that shit,
Literally.
literally, it was Crown and Collards episode 121 called "Your Republican is Showing." Go back and listen to that. And can I just say that trying to find articles for this was overwhelming. There are so many dick pictures in the misconnections. As a gay, I'm a gay man. I you know what I'm saying? I am no stranger to penis. So for me to say that it was overwhelming how much dick was in the misconnections, that should give you a good measurement of how much. I was like, what the? Like, y'all just really. What?
Y'all are some nasty motherfuckers. Hey,
Like,
hey,
nigga,
Craigslist is a
man.
cesspool, okay? And let me tell you, you could go, like, when I was moving to Denver and I was looking on Craigslist to see if I could find any good rentals, it was dick pictures in the rental properties listing. I was like, yo, okay.
Y'all wildin'.
Like
Y'all wildin'.
the number one the question that, like, because when we do them on Crown and Collars, the number one question that people ask me is like, how do I find these shits? And like, I have to tell them, like, look, it has gotten to the point where I don't even have to look in the misconnection section. Like, it was one damn misconnection, I can't remember where and what it was about, but it was so outlandish. You think that I had found it in the personal ads. No, this was in the actual misconnection section. So it's a motherfucker.
Listen. So before I get into this, shout out to the people in the misconnections that are arguing back and forth. Instead, listen, because I was on there and I was like, I saw something that said Ray, and then I scrolled down and I saw the same subject line. So I clicked on, and I was like, y'all are really arguing. Y'all are going back and forth in the misconnections. Are you serious? Your connection is no longer missed. The connection has been made. You can argue off of here. But anyway, so let's get into these. The first one says, country cowboy at gas station.
This ain't gonna end well.
Says, today, Tuesday, I went in to get some beer and cigarettes. You were getting beer too. You looked at, my crotch, grabbed yours, and then rubbed your ass. You put your beer down and asked me where the bathroom was. I, pointed, and then, followed you. Fuck, dude. Your ass is amazing. I want to pull your jeans down and drill your hole. We were interrupted, and I, left. I, want to fuck you. Tell me what color shirt I had on. You were in a black t-shirt, Levi's, and cap. Name the place, and I, will come fuck, you. The end.
This is a lot of damn punctuation.
Listen, either you get too much fucking punctuation or you don't get enough. Like, there's no middle ground.
That's true.
Hey.
That's true.
He went in the gas station for some Marlboros and some Bud Light. And he was
trying to get some
trying to
Blue
get right. Hey. Hey.
No, okay, so wait, because I forgot one very important aspect of this is that he punctuated this whole thing with a picture of a man in some, I guess, Levi's and a cowboy shirt, cowboy hat backwards. So basically, like an ass shot of him in some jeans.
Hey,
So you went and you found a picture of somebody like that to help, I guess, set the tone of the misconnection.
Visualize.
Listen, first of all, y'all nasty because bathrooms, gas station bathrooms are
nasty
disgusting.
as fuck.
So y'all are nasty. Number two, shout out to y'all gay cowboys out here. They do exist. Don't think that every man in Wranglers and trucks that he got a catapult to get into the cabin of are straight. They out here
Listen, they out
country
here
ass
know.
white men be out here
They
fucking
probably
men
know how to.
like it ain't
They probably
nobody's
know how to
business.
ride a dick better than anybody else. They know how to giddy
Hello,
up.
Bronco.
Hey, listen. All I'm saying is, if you see a white man over the age of about 25 in some Brett Favre jeans, hey, hey,
Hey, why you calling?
You might could stick a finger
Or
in there.
two. Or two.
Or Marlboro.
Yeah,
Hell, you don't never know what these motherfuckers
asshole
into
might
this
smoke
day
the
these days.
cigarette.
Be like Assy McGee.
That sounds so freak. That's freaky as hell. Nigga say he put his beer down to grab his crotch.
hey,
That
you
shit
know,
was
white
serious.
men love beer. What white man you know putting the beer down?
Listen, they
Come on
had
now.
some intense sexual chemistry to not have exchanged a word. Like, the misconnection always funny because if I got that kind of chemistry with you off the back, I'm getting your phone number ASAP.
Right. We got interrupted and I left. Why didn't you exchange information before you left? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Oh, okay. this one,
This ain't
this
gonna
one
end well.
says I tried to mix it up because there were a lot of men for men, which, but this one is different. So it says the last of my kind.
Oh
Uh-oh.
boy.
Is this the Temecula nigga?
Listen, just listen. For exactly 128 years, 3 months, 11 days, and 4 hours, I have waited. The cryptic note folded neatly into an origami cat, parentheses cute, and hidden in the cupboard above Sebastian's desk brought me here. This is the day. No longer will I be the last. I know you are reading this. Do not make me wait a moment longer.
Nigga, what?
I'm just wondering, what in the twilight hell? What do you mean 128 years? Bitch, what the fuck are you even talking
Dog,
about?
this is- dog,
Listen, a origami cat. You know how goddamn lonely you gotta be to fold up an origami cat. Cause most people when they do origami, it's some wild exotic animal, a crane, goddamn hummingbird, a giraffe. Motherfucker folded up an origami cat and called it cute. Wow.
No, so here's the thing, because reading this, the person left you the origami cat note, and that's what brought you here. So how is this a misconnection? The connection has already been made. They obviously have access to you if they can leave you notes where you will find them.
128 years, 4 days, 3 nights, 29 minutes, 17 hours.
25,600 minutes.
No,
What are you
shit.
even talking about?
This shit sounds like the prologue to an RPG. Like,
I
this on
thought it was
Final
a
Fantasy.
I thought it was a fiction fantasy type thing. What the fuck, 128 years? I was confused for a minute. Like I was looking at my fingers. I started counting like 128. Yeah, yeah. This person is extremely weird. Like they probably
Like,
be on. They probably
Like,
be in the on PlayStation or Xbox calling black people niggers. Like it was that kind of weird. Like they be in there like
yeah.
fucking nigger. Like what?
Right. Like
This the shit
like
motherfuckers think they Lestat and shit, thinking they looking for their queen of the damn. Like get the fuck.
like the whole time you was reading this shit, all I could picture was Morgan Freeman like narrating this shit.
Hey, go away.
Listen, I'm like,
Tell
you
me
been
y'all
waiting
didn't lie to me and tell me y'all
I
didn't
was
catch
thinking
it.
Twilight. I was like, is they a vampire?
That was my first thought, and then my second thought was, nigga, are you posting this from the grave? 128 years? What are you saying?
What kind of crack they smoking? Like how high
Damn
you
sure.
had to be to post that in the misconnections, because you know they read over it twice before they posted it. Like, cause
Oh
they
yeah,
went
because
back and put cute after the origami cat. Like that was an afterthought edit. Like, oh, let me say that it's cute.
no, you know that they took some time because the punctuation on this was flawless.
Yeah.
They took their time. They proofread the fuck out of this. I was then my third thought was it must be one of them things where people are like I'm a vampire and we drink
That
blood.
gosh.
It's like you 27 and you work IT at the motherfucking post office.
You work
Please
for the
be
Geek
quiet.
Squad at Best Buy. Sit your ass down.
You you are not a
Right.
vampire. All right, last one. Oh, this is a lot. The title is a lot, so be prepared. Like Scar said. It says missing cream pie
Oh.
buddies.
Whoa, wait, whoa, man. Hold on, wait.
So I want
wait,
to,
hold on, wait. I gotta process this. Wait.
wait. I need to add to it before you start processing.
It's
So I
more?
want it. I want it to be known that this person listed some stats. They are 65 and married. So I want you to marinate on the entirety of that before I read the actual
Hey,
thing.
Wait a minute, hold on.
missing cream pie buddies. Hey, 65. Mary. Hey, that is real nasty.
Y'all nasty as fuck. Wait a minute, hold on. There's stats with this shit. This is the first time I done heard stats on the damn biscuit.
Oh, there were a lot of them where they have their stats, age, height, all kinds of shit. Oh, there were quite a few, but this one it was important that I also gave the age and the status.
Okay, all right.
So let me read it.
Okay.
It says, a couple years ago, we met and you let me eat your wife after I watched you fuck her. Now, I'd like to go again, but I have lost your email. Please get in touch with me! Exclamation point. By the way, or BTW, if you are not the ones I connected with but want to get together, please contact me. A fresh cream pie is one of nature's delights.
Ah! Oh,
Oh, wait, okay then. All right.
If y'all don't come get your cockhold ass grandpa off of motherfucking Craigslist,
hey, you know what I was just thinking the other day? I was like, people who can use well-placed sexual innuendo are a gem. And then I was like, one of my favorite jokes is on Twitter is when somebody be like, what's y'all favorite pie? And somebody be like, cream. That shit funny, but this not funny no more. This not funny. I'm never going to be able to think of cream pie as the same. It's
The joke is on.
Yeah, joke is over. You done fucked up the church's money. What is going on?
Are you okay? No, the fuck you are not
Hey,
okay.
yeah, oh, hey, what? That is old and nasty. Listen, listen. I'm not saying older people don't have sex, because I get it, especially when they healthy. But after a certain age, nobody want to hear about your sex life. Nobody want to read
Like,
about
I
your
don't-
sex life. Like, fuck in private. Like, be nasty in the privacy. Like, don't tell nobody, especially not Craigslist. Oh,
Nigga,
I
I'm
just-
never gonna look at cream pies.
Yeah,
Like,
that-
I might not like if I'm watching like if I'm looking at porn and I see cream pie, I might turn the goddamn computer.
yeah, that's
off.
enough for me. That's too much.
yeah,
Like-
that I saved the best for last. That was a
Nigga
lot.
said cream pies is one of life's greatest joys. Like, huh?
One of nature's
Yeah,
delights.
nature's delight.
It's natural.
Like, dog, that motherfucker went full onk to the about goddamn cream pies. I'm fucking. I ain't never looking at cream pie again.
Hey,
The
I
same
always
shit, dog.
imagine elderly men to like shoot dust when they come. So that really ain't no cream pie. It's like confectioner sugar. The shit just it's like confetti explode. Now that's nasty. Hey, get your goddamn
Right,
granddaddy off Craigslist with his nasty ass.
Get your granddad.
Right. Get,
And the way that this was written, my immediate thought was, this motherfucker, it's a delicacy to him. He probably go get him a straw
Hey,
and stick
oh,
it in
no.
sip it through.
He probably eat it with a
He
spoon.
was like, right.
Curtis, what you doing?
He got him
Hey,
a
let me-
bib, a special
Hey,
bib.
listen, this gonna sound terrible, and please don't judge me, but I know you gonna judge me. So many years ago, I was watching the porn, right? And the nigga came in a woman, and he made her push it out on the plate, and then he fed it to her with a spoon. Like, I don't know why I was watching this. It was just
So I'll one up you because that is pretty common in porn, and I have seen, and gays do everything to the extreme. So I've seen the same thing in a gay scenario where they pushed it out onto a plate. I've also seen where they have pushed it out into shot glasses, and I said,
but
I don't even know why I'm on
coming
this
from the
planet.
butt though. You probably could get it real precise in that shot glass though. They just, you know what? This enough.
However, it's coming from the butt.
This
And as I have spoken about on previous episodes, y'all are not out here doing it properly. Y'all are not giving that monkey a good rinse. So
That's like it's like a chocolate cream pie.
right. You know what? On that note, we're gonna wrap this
I
up.
think that's enough. I think we have.
That's
we've
enough.
exhausted every resource. I think we. I think this is. I think this is the time where we need to close because this is.
Yeah. Yeah, let's wrap it up because this too much. This too much. You should have never called me a fat ass Kelly Price. So, starting with Jeremy, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Black Dante. That's BLIKE_Dante. You can find me on my podcast, one of my podcasts, Crown and Collards, with my homeboy and my co-host Dan on.
Shout out to Dan.
Yes, shout out to Dan. Keep getting checks, boy. We are on the Coast of the Podcast Network. You can go to our website, cspn.us, and on the podcast tab, you can go Crown and Collards, and you can also just search Crown and Collards however you listen to your podcast listening device. And you can also, and this will be an alley-oop to Candice, you can also find me on Ratchet Ramblings with Candice, also on the cspn.us podcast tab, and click Ratchet Rambling, and we will be there. And also, you can follow Crown and Collards. That's Crown. Just search Crown and Collards, and the page will pop up. And also search Ratchet Rambling, and the page will pop up for that on Twitter as well.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter at Intense Desire, all together, no spaces, not spelled funny, spelled very normal. No cream pies. Like, I feel like I should change my act now, but it's a little saucy. But you can find me at Twitter on Intense Desire. I do live tweet the Ratchet TV shows on our podcast page, which is Ratchet Rambling. So if you want to get some good laughs and a dose of comedy at other people's expense, follow. And thank you for having us on.
No, thank you guys for joining me. I think this conversation was great. I don't even mind it going damn near to the 2-hour mark. I think that the things that we said needed to be said, and we needed to say them as allies because we're supposed to be, schooling each other. With that being said, you guys, make sure that you are checking out the Sounds of the Stories playlist. Go to GaysideStories.com for all of that good stuff. Everyone's and all of that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to follow Jeremy or Candice, if you don't already, or their shows, all of that stuff will be there. And to wrap it up, make sure that you guys are protecting your walls and watch out for older men who want to drink things out of your walls.
Nature's delight.
Also, beware of white men in Wrangler jeans.
Yeah.
Right. If he put his beer
you
down,
know it's time for action. He about that life.
Get you up. All right, y'all. Bye.